All right, so in this video, I'm going to share how I make $50,000 a month in Saas. And the best part, I do it with 0 employees and almost all on autopilot. Now, I'd argue that Saas is the best business model, but it's hard. Hopefully this video will help you get started, because if you can nail Saas, it's so going to be worth it. So let's get over the real nitty-gritty of building a software product, specifically on how I did it. So I will be going over 5 essential steps in building and scaling my SaaS business or your SaaS business to at least over 10K in MRR, right? So the first one, pick the right problem to solve for an audience you love, validate before launching, design your go-to-market plan, build, and scale. Now, before we start, if you want to learn more about SaaS, you can either get my free SaaS masterclass, which will teach you everything you need to know about starting in SaaS. And I'll also provide you with a limited and temporary deal for my 5-star rated SaaS course that teaches you everything there is to know about building, scaling, and growing your SaaS. So both are linked in the description below. But that said, let's go back to my sketches and let's talk about the first one. Pick the right problem to solve for an audience you love. Now, this is really one of the hardest lessons and experiences I had in building businesses, because I remember back in 2018, I was working on my previous startup. It was a home improvement marketplace, which me and my team scaled over $1 million in ARR. Now, despite loving the product, loving the team, doing very well revenue-wise, I just wasn't happy. And this had everything to do with one core problem. I just wasn't passionate about the problem we were solving for an audience I didn't even like. So first things first, if you want to endure the startup roller coaster, you need to make sure you pick the right problem from an audience you love, or at least like. Generally speaking, pick a problem you're passionate about, right? So now, one of the best ways of picking such a problem is to find problems in your own life. That's exactly what I did. So when I was scaling that marketplace app, I stumbled upon the problem of getting a lot of feedback from the users of the marketplace. But back then, there was no way to actually structure that feedback and make it actionable. So I did what every founder would do, right? I started looking up online on how to solve this problem, right? So specifically looking for software to do it for me. Now, while I did found some existing tools out there, they either didn't fit my exact need or they were just super expensive. And then it just clicked. This could potentially be my next big thing, especially since I was experiencing this problem myself and I could potentially literally dog food it myself, right? And this is big, I was also super passionate about building products and product management in general. So with this product, I could help an audience that I feel I was passionate about. Going to the second one, validate before you launch. Now, what I've learned from building previous startups, both from failures and successes, is validation comes first. So I love this quote in particular. An idea is just a thought in your head until you share it. Meaning you just have to go out there and share your idea in order to not fall into the trap of, thinking you got it all figured out. Because flash news, you probably haven't. So in order to do so, I just quickly came up with a name, a logo. This is the exact logo I went public with. Only later, after validation, I came up with the final design, a logo as you see it right now. But in the early stage, it simply doesn't matter that much. You just have to go out there with something. So what I did next, I just created this simple landing page with a sign-up form, started sharing it online. The main sources I shared it were Facebook groups, my own following, niche-specific forums like Reddit, Indie Hackers, etc. It really doesn't matter what you do as long as you get it in front of your target audience, basically. Now, the third one would be to design your GTM plan, your go-to-market plan. Now, so after a couple of weeks of sharing my idea online, more than 300 people actually signed up for the waiting list. And that was the real validation. And so I needed to come up with the next steps, which surprisingly still wasn't about building the actual product, because step number three is about understanding the market, your competition, and the current solutions you're after. And This is highly underrated. It will definitely teach you more about your target audience and what strategies will work for you. So a couple of things I did. I analyzed the landing pages of my competitors. I signed up to their products, right? See what their onboarding looks like, what the products looks like. I listened to podcasts or watched videos or read blog posts of the founders. I also researched my desired target audience, which I could determine more and more when I learned more from, through doing research from my competitors. Don't get me wrong, you shouldn't just simply do what they're doing, but they've been in the trenches longer than you and they know exactly what type of audience is interested in such a product. So it would be just utterly ignorant to not use their data for your own good, right? And finally, most importantly, I started talking to my desired audience, aka the people that signed up to my waiting list. That was simply one of the best things I did, actually, because by talking to those users, I learned so much more about the use cases and biggest problems they face, right? And I quickly discovered something truly amazing. The two biggest competitors of my own product were, for once, yes, competitive tools, right? But by far, there was one tool in particular I never thought of at the moment. It was Microsoft Excel. So it turned out other people like me didn't want to pay for existing tools or just never heard of them. And thus they were using Excel to collect their feedback, which obviously was a real hassle. Now, also by talking to these people, I quickly discovered that the majority of them were either solo founders or product managers. So that made it clear what audience I should go after. And yeah, I highly recommend to narrow down your target audience as far as possible because it makes it just so much easier to build a product for this specific audience, but also for doing marketing and sales. So yeah, really talk with potential users and, figure out what roles they exactly have. And yeah, basically what happened with me was that solo founders and product managers were by far the most interested people in my product. So, and then based on my research, I came up with a GTM strategy. So my go-to-market strategy, which looked in a nutshell like this: build a V1, version 1, open up the beta to the waiting list, write educational blog posts to target my target audience, build version 2, launch publicly, then write competitors' alternative 2 pages, launch competitor ads, cold outreach, and scale. Right? In a nutshell, this was the go-to-market strategy. Number 4, build. Now, this is the fun part because after this, we finally start building the product. And by we, I mean me and my developer, since I'm not technical, so I had to hire a developer. But as you can see in the go-to-market strategy, before we launched publicly, I actually first launched a private beta version. So I opened up the initial first version of the product to all of the people on the waiting list to, let them test it out, give feedback, of course, by using our own product. And they just worked with the first version. And yes, this is the exact first ugly version of the product. Kind of embarrassing right now, but yeah, this was actually a good thing in hindsight, because by launching it as soon as possible with this ugly first version, we got super valuable feedback from those early users, and that's really invaluable. So, and funny thing, I actually managed to acquire the first $1,000 in MRR, monthly recurring revenue, from those early users that joined from the waiting list, since they either wanted to support me by signing up for a paid plan, or they simply reached certain limits within their free plan and wanted to upgrade right away. Now, after we did the usual stuff like, launching on Product Hunt, open up the product to the rest of the world, and just let the product slowly grow with new users. Now, number 5, scale. After launching the product and letting it run for a couple of months, we grew to $5,000 in MRR. This was all organic base with a couple of simple competitor ads, right? And this period was actually pretty helpful because along the way, I just learned what worked for my audience, what features we needed to build next based on the user feedback, of course, again, by using our own software, and what marketing strategies brought in the most new leads, right? Now, in order to scale, there were a couple of things I did in particular. So firstly, I doubled down on things that were working. So think about putting more ad budget in ads that were performing well, or sponsoring certain newsletters that brought in new leads before and, targeted the target audience, solo founders or product managers, and this was really one of the best marketing channels, writing educational blog posts on our own blog that attracted the right target audience that just wanted to learn about product management, right? Eventually, you can only double down so much, right? So secondly, I needed to come up with new strategies. And by far, there were two strategies in particular that brought us from as low as 5K a month, I believe, to at least over 15 or 20K a month. So the first one, we implemented a referral system and not the traditional affiliate system where creators are sharing your software and you get new leads through the network, which can be a great marketing channel as well, by the way. But in this case, we simply added a powered by Upvote dimension with a link to our landing page in our own product. So when we attracted more and more bigger products like Direct Admin or, for example, V.io, more and more users of our customers that use those products saw our amazing feedback tool within those products and wanted to use it for their own products, right? And thus, the customers of our customers actually became our customers as well. And our customers were bringing in new leads on autopilot this way. Now, the second strategy was the one that brought in the most enterprise customers, aka the customers on the bigger plan, and thus bringing in more revenue on average. What we did, we started building third-party integrations, like an integration for Zapier, Intercom, and Slack. The best thing about it, firstly, making your software compatible for teams in their current software stack. So basically making your software really usable for teams. Plus, and this is a big one, by creating these third-party integrations, you're immediately attracting more eyeballs from new potential customers, since you'll be listed with your app in the marketplaces and app stores of those big software companies, right? And thus, new potential customers will search for a solution. And since you've already built an integration for that particular software they're searching for, it's a no-brainer to sign up. In a nutshell, this is how I scaled my software product to 20K a month to now over 50K a month. And of course, there's lots of other things you can do. And I've actually also shared more in detail strategies you can apply in my 5-star rated Saas course, which you can grab for a limited deal with the first link in the description. Or again, if you want to start for free, sign up for my free Saas masterclass, also linked in the description below. And with that, if you found this helpful, make sure to subscribe, like, and see you in the next one.